Chapter 26. Yang Chen raised his head to look. At this moment the enchanting figure of Mo Qianni has already arrived in front of the candidates, and she raises the small microphone. With only a rough glance, Yang Chen already understood why Fatty and the other men are so infatuated in Mo Qianni. This is indeed a pretty woman, with a fit body and cutesy face. If one had to compare, in Yang Chen's opinion she could compete with Rose. However, Rose has a more wild and flirtatious vibe, while Mo Qianni here, has a more confident and intellectual beauty vibe. Obviously, to these men who have played enough with plain and ordinary girls, this sort of white-collared female leader is exceptionally difficult to resist. Everybody, please remain silent. Mo Qianni spoke formally with a smile, and with a voice as clear as a bell. What we have next is a written exam regarding you candidates' foreign language capabilities. This is because PR work requires facing many types of customers. With regards to us international customers are extremely common. In the future if one is unable to properly communicate on the job for the benefit of the company, that would be considered extremely irresponsible behavior. As according to everybody's declared information, we have prepared test papers on 6 foreign languages, namely English, French, German, Japanese, Spanish and Italian. Later on, everybody can choose according to their 2 preferred foreign languages for the test. Applicants with a test score of 60% and above will enter the final interview. Therefore, everybody please seriously and carefully fill in the test papers we're about to give out. The time limit is 1 hour, thank you. With that said, Mo Qianni signaled to the few other beautiful assistants by her side. The 4 assistants then spread out towards the 4 corners at the same time and started to give out the test papers from the corners towards the middle. The majority of those present who understood foreign languages had definitely started to learn since childhood. When learning they acquired English, and a language with similarities to English such as Spanish or the simpler Japanese. Which is why once it was time to choose test papers, English and Spanish test papers were chosen the most. Yang Chen sat at a rather central position. When an assistant asked which test paper he wanted, Yang Chen felt distressed by the choices. In the end he awkwardly smiled and said, whichever, giving me any 2 will do. The beautiful assistant is seemingly stunned. This man is either a fool or is truly formidable. Is it possible he knows 6 foreign languages? However, she naturally wouldn't say anything unnecessary. With a mischievous heart, she also wants to deliberately make things difficult for this man who thinks too highly of himself. The assistant pulls out from the bottom German and Italian test papers. No one else has chosen these 2 languages before this. This examination may only require 60% of the total marks, but the lower the passing mark required, the higher the difficulty of the test. Yang Chen doesn't mind at all. Upon receiving the test paper he writes his name, and begins filling the blanks. The atmosphere of the examination room turned heavy in 5 minutes. Most importantly, few of the scarcely remaining male candidates were considerably unhappy. The reason is the contents of the test paper. In the test paper, majority of the questions were regarding ladies' cosmetics and ladies' clothing. This type of specific knowledge is something the men were going mad from being bombarded by specific cosmetic ingredients vocabulary, breast pads, bras, and thong professional designing vocabulary. In less than 10 minutes, 4 out of the 7 or 8 remaining men dropped their pens and left. Before leaving, they still greedily glanced at Mo Qianni's fiery figure, and unwillingly left the examination room. Fatty, who sat beside Yang Chen, is sweating profusely with a painful headache, but he continues to endure and battle bravely. When 15 minutes passed, Yang Chen creases his eyebrows while staring at the test paper. He raises his hand and says, "Excuse me, Proctor, I have a question." Mo Qianni maintained her formal business smile, nods at Yang Chen and leisurely walks to him. "What questions do you have, Mr.?" Mo Qianni's career womanly charm is substantially increased when she entered close proximity. The faint smell of the Chanel perfume on her body matches well with her intellectual temperament and exquisite face. She's a beauty radiating brilliance. Fatty at the side had let go of his pen long ago. He stares infatuated at Mo Qianni while swallowing his saliva. Perhaps it is because there are too many beauties by his side. At this time there is Rose, Li Jingjing, and more importantly his wife Lin Ruoxi, who is one grade higher than Mo Qianni. Yang Chen doesn't fervently gaze at Mo Qianni, and points at his German test paper saying, about the question regarding Veritern, I think that when you guys were setting the test, you mistyped the word Veritern. In fact, when it comes to tea-back easily causing ulcers on a lady's vagina, it is good enough if you use the suffix itern. It's simpler and more precise. TL, this stuff is a little too high level for me, sorry if it doesn't make sense to you. Does anyone who understands German know what's going on? Reader Dummkopf has a rather convincing explanation in the comments. Yang Chen did not intentionally lower his voice, although he spoke faintly and indifferently. When he finished, the surrounding people all displayed amazed expressions as they gazed at him. A few ladies in the group even started blushing. It is strange to hear a man talk about women's private parts in a public setting. Mo Qianni was stunned. She never expected that the question Yang Chen had was not a personal question, and was instead a problem with the test paper. After glancing at Yang Chen with a peculiar look, she signals her assistant to immediately go online to check. In just a short moment, after searching through the German dictionary, the assistant informs Mo Qianni that the word ulcer is a mistake, and likely caused by carelessness. With this, the surrounding people's impression of Yang Chen immediately changed. From suspicion and surprise into admiration and jealousy, several of the Yulei International's lady employees began whispering amongst themselves, staring at Yang Chen with interest. When Fatty saw this scene, he couldn't help but cry out in his heart, damn. To think he is pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger, a true expert in the art of picking up girls. Mo Qianni pursed her lips and smiles, Mr. You are truly a genuine talent, thank you for pointing out our negligence, please continue with the test. Continue. Yang Chen chuckled as he picked up the two tests, Proctor, I've already finished, I wish to turn them in. Wah! Noise erupts from all four corners of the room. At this moment, everybody in the examination hall is shocked, is he still human? Only 15 minutes have passed, not only did he spot a high-level mistake, he has even finished both papers and is now submitting them. Mo Qianni's unperturbed expression finally has a change, and reveals a slightly cute expression of surprise, Mister, are you sure you want to hand in your test papers? There is still more than 40 minutes remaining, don't you want to check? I am used to never looking back, there is no need to go over it. Said Yang Chen as he shakes his head to decline her well-intentioned advice. Alright, we will grade the test paper on the spot. Mo Qianni did not continue with any superfluous words as she took the exam papers and passed it to the assistant, then continued to look over other applicants. However, time after time, Mo Qianni would always give Yang Chen a glance, unable to fully suppress her curiosity. While feeling bored, Yang Chen wants to take a smoke but suddenly remembers it is prohibited, so he raised his hand and asked, Proctor, I want to go to the bathroom and take a smoke while I'm at it. Poochie, laughing sound. Several ladies couldn't endure from laughing out loud. They did not expect that this handsome young man who seems well educated would speak such vulgar words, but such a character is refreshing to them. After all, majority of the men that appear in front of these white-collared ladies are all pretending to be perfect men. In comparison with Yang Chen's undisciplined manners, calling it a difference between heaven and earth isn't an exaggeration. Mo Qianni, not fully understanding the thoughts of an eccentric person like Yang Chen, knitted her brows as she nodded her head, all right, however, rather than going to the bathroom to smoke, I would prefer you do it out of the building. Also, come back on time. Without waiting for Mo Qianni to finish speaking, Yang Chen had already ran out of the room, and even forgot to close the door. Chapter 27. Outside the Yulei building, Yang Chen was taking a smoke when he noticed a group of crestfallen people, including the wretched Fatty, walk out of the building in succession. Upon seeing Yang Chen, Fatty's face displayed a look of anger. I must say, brother, how is that brain of yours grown? How can you answer such difficult topics? I could only understand 80% of the English test and don't even mention to me about the French test. Hee, it's all luck. Yang Chen responded. He couldn't tell Fatty that because of the strange martial arts he practiced, he could learn something just from seeing it once. Yang Chen could successfully utilize a language after memorizing a dictionary of its language. Dejected, Fatty says, forget about it, only someone with a brain as abnormal as yours can enter ULA International. The rest of our brothers have all failed, you must uphold the image of us men, as the final torchbearer. Ed gasps. What? Are there no other men remaining from this round? Yang Chen asked. Who in the right mind would spend the whole day doing nothing but researching the purpose of underwear designs, and in French and Spanish vocabulary? Shaking his fat head, the way I see it, including you, there won't be more than 5 people remaining. Yang Chen rubbed his head in distress. To be honest, this exam didn't feel as hard as how Fatty described it to be, but Yang Chen felt that he exposed too much, he should have intentionally answered a few questions wrong. If he got too good of a result, wouldn't that be too conspicuous and contrary to Yang Chen's original goal of finding a laid-back job? Fatty, letting out a long sigh, patted Yang Chen's shoulder and said, all right, I'm going to drink with some of the other brothers who dropped out, otherwise the pain in our hearts cannot be quelled. After talking, a group of people all wearing the same expression of regret walked to the parking lot. With some worries, Yang Chen slowly walked back to the examination hall. Inside the hall, there were only 3 beautiful women left, and if you counted Yang Chen, there were only 4 people who passed the exam. Upon entering inside, Mo Qianni and the other examiners all looked at Yang Chen strangely, as if he was a freak. As Mo Qianni had seen it all, after pausing for only a brief moment, a smile appeared on her face as she said, Congratulations, Mr. Yang, you are the sole remaining male applicant to proceed to our final interview. You are also the applicant who scored the highest on the foreign language test, getting the max score. While paying attention to how respectful Mo Qianni was when she spoke to him, Yang Chen was certain that he had showed off too much. His skill in German and Italian caused all these ladies to be thoroughly amazed. Awkwardly chuckling, he sat back down and waited for the final interview. As there were only 4 applicants remaining, Mo Qianni no longer required a microphone and spoke with a smile. The 4 of you were capable enough to pass our difficult foreign language test. It seems that all of you do have genuine talent. For the final round, we will be testing your understanding of the fashion industry and your ability to appreciate fine goods. As everybody knows, every year, our ULA International's clothing design changes. And so it is considered a rather difficult task for new employees to identify which clothing belongs to our brand. In a while, there will be 10 models wearing this year's new clothing designs shown to the 4 of you. In 5 minutes or less, the 4 of you must pick the outfit that isn't our company's design. There is only one chance, and if you get it right, you'll be granted a 2-month trial contract, no questions asked. Yang Chen wrinkled his brows. In all honesty, his understanding towards fashion could be considered non-existent as he does not care about what he wear. In the past his clothes were all custom-made and he never came in contact with clothing belonging to any brand. At the same time, in the exam room, a curtain was being pulled open revealing 10 tall models leisurely walking forward. The spotlights shone at them as they stood in front of the 4 candidates. At that moment, the eyes of all 3 women displayed admiration and released a gasp of surprise. Women innately love all things beautiful. When looking at the 10 outfits in front of them, they all had different thoughts coming in and out of their mind as they started to examine each and every outfit carefully. Only after repeatedly examining their boobs, did Yang Chen smack his lips together and start focusing on the outfits. Each and every one of these outfits had different sorts of patterns and styles. There were leopard print dresses, lacy one-piece dresses, tutus made of chiffon, and pink long dresses with straps. There were even elegant business suits for women. The only thing they shared in common was that none of them had any traces of a brand. When Yang Chen saw the 10 models, he first stared blankly for a while. Right after, Yang Chen began writing his answer on the given paper without any hesitation. When 5 minutes passed, Mo Qianni clapped her hands and an assistant walked up to collect their answer sheets. After finishing, the assistant handed the papers to her. Giving them a brief glance, Mo Qianni displayed a flash of surprise and looked at Yang Chen with curious eyes. Pursing her lips and smiling, the results have already been decided. I am representing the entire ULA International to warmly welcome our new colleague, Mr. Yang Chen. After finishing, she took the lead to clap for him. The other employees, after hearing the announcement, all looked at him with curious eyes and started to happily clap to welcome him. However, the other three applicants found this hard to swallow. Their evaluating skills lost to a man who speaks so vulgarly. One of the three was displeased and inquired, "Proctor, can you tell us the correct answer?" After Mo Qianni quieted the people around, smiled toward that female applicant, looked at Yang Chen and asked, "Mr. Yang, please tell us how you arrived at the correct answer." Although Yang Chen didn't care about how people viewed him, he knows it isn't good to not give face to his future superior in front of this many people. Yang Chen sighed and raised his hand, pointing to the 10th model and said, "I chose her." It was evident that the other three applicants blanked out for a moment, but afterwards, they started to look at the 10th model again. This model was wearing a classic European Bohemian-styled long dress, because Bohemian ladies' clothing seemed complex and difficult to grasp. Various tassels and pendants required careful matching. Moreover, this type of ancient wandering gypsy freedom, along with the clothing's mysterious air, is not something modern ladies can control, and so this type of dress is not well liked. But because of that being too obvious, the three lady candidates only took a short glance at number 10 before ruling it out. They did not believe that after giving them such a difficult foreign language exam, such a big loophole would appear. After all, this Bohemian dress is too gaudy. They kept thinking that it is a trap. Yang Chen does not care about the three ladies' shock and regrets. He unenthusiastically explains, "If I'm right, the Bohemian dress model number 10 is wearing, was handmade by an old-fashioned Italian designer. The crystals on this dress girdle and pendants on the fringed skirt are all real and elaborately polished crystals. The diamond pieces on the chest are also real South African diamonds. In my opinion, although Ulay International is one of the top 10 fashion brands in the country, they can't possibly be using this many high-class natural crystals and diamonds just to make this dress right." This time, not just the three candidates, even all the other Ulay International's employees revealed an expression of disbelief. They originally thought Yang Chen could only tell that this dress isn't cheap, but did not expect Yang Chen could even recognize the origins of this dress clearly. What everyone present doesn't know is, Yang Chen is extremely happy inside. The designer of this dress is the old fella who used to make custom-made dress shirts for him. "I wore the clothes for so many years, how can I not recognize this style? This level of extravagance, is by whom? Nobody else in this world can compare with me in understanding this guy's style." Looking at the grand and refined Bohemian dress, Yang Chen revealed a wistful expression. He softly spoke in his heart, "Ron, you stubborn old man who refuses to wear reading glasses despite suffering from presbyopia, are you living well?" Chapter 28. Due to Yang Chen's performance at the examination, the attention of all Ulay International headquarters employees were on him. Even women that he was going to work with looked at such an intelligent man as a popular discussion topic over tea time. Even before officially starting work, he has already been recognized by a vast majority of people. After signing the contract, Yang Chen was led by Mo Qianni over to the PR department located on the 18th floor of the Ulay building. This whole floor belongs to the PR department. Entering the workplace, Yang Chen found a group of people standing up and clapping for him. Since the absolute majority of the people there were women, when a man is capable enough of joining, the women all become excited. After having Yang Chen make a simple self-introduction, Mo Qianni has him enter her department head's office. In the office, other than a few pots of carefully placed scarlet kaffir lilies, the rest of the room was extremely simple. The desk was neat and tidy, while on the wall there were several plaques, declaring the owner of this room as someone who has great accomplishments and efficiency in her style of work. Towards his new superior, Yang Chen did feel admiration. This woman may appear beautiful and seductive, but she is even more confident and witty. One cannot feel any inkling of wrongdoing from her. It can be seen from the fact that she got to such a position at such a young age, and all of that is not possible just by being beautiful. "Please take a seat, would you like a drink?" Mo Qianni politely smiled and asked. "No thanks, I'm not thirsty." Yang Chen responded. Mo Qianni laughs at him while shaking her head, and continued with pouring a cup of water for him. "The reason I asked you what you want to drink is not to help you relieve your thirst, it is a hint to you that I want to have a long talk with you. By saying you're not thirsty, aren't you rejecting a lengthy talk with me? From here on out, you are a member of our PR department, don't miss simple hints such as this." Yang Chen feels a little conflicted. He only just entered the company and is already receiving a show of superiority. He helplessly says, Miss Mo, I'm a boorish person. Being an errand boy is fine by me, but this type of business is not something I'm adept with. I don't believe that a man who is fluent in Italian, German and is able accurately identify the workmanship of an Italian-made handmade designer clothing with a glance can possibly be considered a boorish person. Mo Qian's bright and pretty eyes stared straight at Yang Chen. Leaning against the table, she looked slim and graceful. Yang Chen had no counters to Mo Qian's sharp words, and could only raise his hands. Miss Mo, believe it or not, I'm only here to look for a job. In fact, I'm not even sure what work is done in the PR department. But of course, since I have signed the contract, I will give it my best. I just want to lay down the truth first. Seeing that Yang Chen didn't seem to be lying, Mo Qian changed topics. I have just looked over your resume. The information you provided is very limited. There is only a Harvard University Market Management master's degree. However, among all the applicants, you are the only one that possesses a master's degree from an American Ivy League school, which was why you were the sole exception that was directly entered into the final examinatio. All thanks to luck. Hearing the lady superior in front bombard him with such praises, Yang Chen, who wouldn't even frown if countless number of guns were shooting at him, suddenly felt somewhat guilty. Mo Qian felt unsatisfied with Yang Chen's unrefined excuses. She returned to her seat and after maintaining her silence for a while, she asked, Yang Chen, since you say you don't understand anything about PR, why did you apply? You want the truth. Why would I possibly want to hear a lie? I think you might prefer to hear a lie. The truth might be too much for you to handle. Yang Chen said while feeling somewhat embarrassed. The truth, I want to hear the truth. Mo Qian was getting pretty angry. This new employee seems to have zero respect for his superior. Yang Chen took a deep breath. All right then, the main reason I came to apply is because my wife wants me to find a dignified office job. Your wife wants you to find a dignified job. Mo Qian feels that she's about to faint, creases her eyebrows and asks, what was your former job? I'm a mutton skewer seller, right at the West Regions Market. Perhaps you've seen me there before. I've set up stall for half a year now. Yang Chen straightforwardly said with a smile. Mo Qian felt she was going mad. Mutton skewer seller. The only qualified member pedantically chosen from a huge pile of elites is a mutton skewer seller. I don't find this joke funny, Yang Chen. I hope you stop mocking me as that is merely mocking yourself. Mo Qian tries her best to calmly speak. When Yang Chen heard this, he felt puzzled. How is this mockery? And so he makes a serious face and says, Miss Mo, you may look down on my job, but you can't look down on my character. I may only be a mere mutton skewer seller, but I have no reason to joke about my employment. I am proud of selling mutton skewers. Mo Qian's pretty face turns pale as she gnashed her teeth and says, you still say you aren't mocking me. A man who is a Harvard graduate, extremely fluent in at least 2 foreign languages and able to accurately identify a handmade Italian product's origin, is a mutton skewer seller. Then what about the other applicants, and all the other people in society, what are they? Are all of them veggie sellers? Unexpectedly, after this outburst of anger, Yang Chen makes a look of serious thought, lowers his head for a moment, and replies, Miss Mo, I'm not sure if they have sold vegetables before, but you could ask them. You. Mo Qian feels the sky spin and earth twist. How is this brute's brain grown? Is he really a human being from Earth? Seeing his new superior's face bubbling up with anger and ample chest repeatedly undulate, Yang Chen is aware that he has gotten into trouble, as even before he formally started work he has made his superior this angry. But Yang Chen truly doesn't know what to do. He wanted to lie but she refuses to hear it. He spoke the truth and she gets angry. What is he to do? Therefore he could only brace himself and stay silent. Mo Qian is considered a hero amongst women. She may have burst with anger, but she also managed to calm her emotions quickly. However, the way she looks at Yang Chen is no longer as kind as before, seemingly looking at Yang Chen as if he is a playboy here to look for her and make himself happy. Once she thought of things this way, Mo Qian made a cold smile and says, all right, I'm not going to speak much more with you. Your desk is outside at the back of the 3rd column, it's already cleaned up. There will be someone who hands you work. You may leave. Oh, thank you Miss Mo, I shall take my leave now. Yang Chen said as though a burden had been taken off of his chest. Just as he stood up, he suddenly remembered something as he turned his body around, picked up the cup of water, and downed it in a single gulp. Upon doing so, he used his sleeve to wipe his mouth, and left her office. Upon seeing this, Mo Qianni's eyebrows once again furrowed. She felt that she did not want to pay another glance at Yang Chen, but he had already signed the contract. If she wanted to fire him early, the company would have to pay quite a steep penalty. Actions such as this must attain the approval of the CEO, or it could not be done. After all, even though this is only a trial period, he is now a member of the headquarters, and not under the jurisdiction of a department's management. After thinking it over, Mo Qianni still decided to make a phone call. Hello. The lady on the other side of the line gently said. Mo Qianni hesitated for a moment, then said, CEO, I would like to dismiss the new male trial PR member. He has some serious attitude problems, integrity problems and capability problems. There are many specific reasons. I wish to receive your approval. The lady addressed as CEO remained silent for a while, then replied, You have always been cautious with your work. Since you have signed the contract, why are you immediately regretting? Send me all of his data. I will make my decision after taking a look. Yes, CEO. After Mo Qianni hung up the phone, she helplessly sighed, then opened up the data storage, and via the company's intranet, she sent Yang Chen's information directly to the CEO's office.